Hey, Jamie Rossi with the Seven Figure Advisor. If you are using illustrations to close, you're losing more deals than you need to, and you're leaving money on the table. Now, I know that might seem crazy to some of you guys, particularly the life insurance agents, because some of you have learned to use illustrations when you're closing the prospect. But tell me if this sounds familiar. You have a really good meeting with the prospect. Everything seems to be going good. You maybe have got a couple different annuity strategy illustrations proposed, and you screen share it with them, or you go over it on person, and then you go over the whole spiel: the best 10, the worst 10, the most recent 10, this index, and this is what your 400,000 is going to be in this case scenario, and yada, 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 yada. You go over all of this stuff, right? And then at the end, they go, well, we talked about a lot. I need to digest all of that. I need to think about it. I need to talk to my spouse. Can you send me that illustration? Well, let me tell you something. If they ask for you to send them the illustration, that is code for they're never going to talk to you again. They're going to block your email, block your phone number if you keep calling them and emailing them, or they're just going to ignore you. They're going to mark it as spam and they're going to ignore you. And here's why. Because there is so much information on an illustration. And I don't know where this happened, but somewhere along the line, illustrations started being used as sales tools. And today they kind of look pretty snazzy, and they have graphics and they have this and they have that. But if you look at an illustration from 10 years ago, it was all text. They didn't have any of this stuff on them. And the reason why is because an illustration is a legally binding agreement between the insurance company and the primary insured. This is the promise. This is that principal protection that they're offering. And at the end, when you show that the prospect, the only thing that's really guaranteed is zeros across the board. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, unless you're using a fixed product or some other type of annuity. And this is why you direct the prospect's attention, and they say, well, what's the worst case scenario? And then you show them that, well, the zeros, the worst case is you don't lose any money. And they don't like that. Even though when you're invested in equities, the worst case is a severe loss. You could have, $1 million, and you could lose in 2008, you might have lost $300,000 or $400,000. And not lost, seen the reduction in the account value. During the 2001 tech wreck, you might have seen a 25% reduction in your account balance, right? So in reality, we know that the annuities are a very good tool and product to use for people, particularly that are close to retirement. They want income, they want capital preservation, they don't want to take any market risks. And it's your job as the agent to get them into the best possible situation. And you're not going to be able to do that with illustrations. It becomes this paralysis by analysis scenario where the prospect thinks, because they've looked at this 30-page document with tons and tons of numbers, like, listen, an illustration would make even a bookkeeper dizzy, right? They're not for that. They're just not for that. And when I stopped using illustrations and starting using this one particular method to close people, I actually started doing significantly better in my practice. In fact, my revenue doubled when I got rid of the illustrations and I started doing this one thing. And I'll tell you, it was an accident. It happened by accident because I was sort of brought up with the agency that I was with to use the illustrations to show them, because here it is. Now, if you use illustrations and you're successful, don't get me wrong, illustrations can work for what we call a professional buyer. If you're interested in looking at a very good sales text, it's called Big League Sales by Les Dane. It was written in like the 40s or the 50s. And he talks about this professional buyer and how to close a professional buyer. This is somebody that, unfortunately, professional buyers are only one small percentage of the overall types of prospects. And if you ought to get that book and check it out, because it's a fantastic book. And so anytime you're with somebody that doesn't care about the numbers, and it's more of an emotional type of close. And so you're thinking like, well, if I'm not using illustrations to close, then what am I closing on? How am I closing it? I discovered it by accident, and this is how I did it the first time. I had an appointment. It was for, I don't know, $250,000 worth of movable retirement accounts. And the sales desk didn't get me the presentation back in time, which was the illustration and a couple of other documents. And I was kind of freaking out. I was newer at the time and I didn't know what I could do. And I'm like, oh man, well, why don't I just break it down into the different types of investments? So I had the meeting and they started talking about, we went over what they were doing for retirement, and we started talking back and forth, and they were like, well, so I want to make sure that I'm good for retirement. Do you have any recommendations? Which is the best possible thing that you can be asked, right? And I said, there's really only 3 types of investments you can have. There's aggressive investments, there's conservative investments, and there's protected investments. And then I started talking about each one of those things. I said, listen, aggressive investments is what you have a lot of now. These are equities: Tesla, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Meta, Berkshire Hathaway. Those get you a lot of gain in the growth phase. You can get 10, 15, 20, 30, or even more percent. In theory, it's infinity percent. But you can also have a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% loss in those equities. So those are the aggressive investments. And like we talked about, that's what you mostly have. The second type of investment is a conservative investment. About 20% of your investments right now are allocated towards conservative investments, and those are bonds. Bonds will get you 2 to 4% on average. But the risk involved with bonds is the interest rate risk and the default risk. Bond prices are inversely proportional to interest rates. And if that company happens to file for bankruptcy and there's not enough money to pay back all of the bondholders, then you could potentially lose up to 100% of your investment. Not very common, but it does happen. And there are ways to diversify that with bond funds. The third type of investment is a protected investment. A protected investment is an account with a bank, insurance company, or credit union that is principal protected. So for every 100,000 that you put in, that principal is protected. Now, we're not going to hit any grand slams with the protected investments either. They're also going to get you 2 to 5%, maybe 6 or 7% on a good year. But we don't have default risk like bonds. We don't have interest rate risk like bonds. And we definitely don't have the potential loss of 100% of the investment. So based on those 3 types of investments, because if we oversimplify it, that's really all you have access to in your retirement portfolio. Based on those 3 types of investments, where would you like to see your money? And that's the close. That's the entire close. And you're going to get people all over the board. You're going to get people that say, well, I don't know, maybe I don't want to have my eggs in one basket, so I'll do 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Or maybe I'll do 100% aggressive. I've only had 2 people out of hundreds of people meeting with it ever said they wanted to be 100% aggressive, but they do exist. I've had a lot of people tell me that they wanted to be 100% protected. I don't want any risk. I don't want to lose any money. I'm close to retirement. I worked hard. I don't want anything bad to happen. I want 100% of there. And as many of you know, like, might not even be suitable. And you probably can't even get that through suitability, right? So the key here to using this closing technique is to ask them where they feel like they should be invested in these types of investments. And then don't try to steer them into putting more into the protected account that's going to get you a bigger commission. You just shouldn't do that. It's against their best interest. You're not acting on the best interest on their behalf, basically. And you're not going to get closes like that. Because if somebody tells you they want 100% aggressive, and then you pull out the history of the stock market, somebody in the mid 40s, mid 50s, and they're like, no, I want to be aggressive. I want to be all in, all in, all in. The solution isn't to try to convince them that they need an annuity. The solution is to get them invested aggressively. Like, that's the solution. And if you can't do that because you don't have a license to do that, then you need to get that license so you can act as a true fiduciary, okay? But you'll get all types of responses to that question, how do you think you should be invested? But almost always when they give their answer, if they give an answer, they will ask you, I don't know, you're the professional, what do you think? And this is your chance to make a recommendation based on everything that you've talked about. Everything that you've talked about. You don't have to go through these pages and pages of illustration and show them this like stepped graph with the floor for the protection, and you only take a place in the market upside, and you don't have to sell on these premium bonuses and the participation rates and the enhanced benefit. It's like they don't care about any of that stuff, and you're not going to close a case on that. This is the equivalent of selling somebody their dream vacation by selling them a plane ticket in seat 1A, or talking them into buying their Mai Tai to sell them. You're going to go on this vacation, you can have this Mai Tai, right? Like they're buying the balcony view and the time off and the relaxation and the environment. All of those other things, the drinks and the rental car and the trips and the baggage, like that's all secondary. And that's what agents and advisors do when they say, well, I've got this Athene annuity, it gives a 12% bonus and blah, 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 blah. All of those features that I'm talking about, the caps, the par rates, any of the premium bonuses, any of the enhanced benefits, all of that stuff is what the insurance companies use to get you to use their product. And the biggest mistake you can make as a new agent, if you're watching this, is then taking these features, this amazing premium bonus, and then you take that and you decide, I'm going to use this company because my IMO uses it and they've got this brand new product and it's unlike anything we've ever seen before. And then you take that and then you try to sell it to them, the prospect. The prospect gives zero care about the premium bonus and the caps and the par rates. You're going to have a hard time closing cases on that. Now, I know I've seen like using that to get another product out of the surrender or selling it on this premium bonus. But listen, like that's not the purpose of the annuities, right? That's the purpose is principal protection and a little bit of growth. And no matter what's promised, no matter the cap, the par rate, the premium bonus, no matter what's promised, FIAs average 4, 5, 6, 7%, 8%, 9% on a good year. If you're making promises of 15%, 12%, 19% on FIAs, that's S&P 500 in good bull runs type returns. You don't get them in an FIA. And I don't care, you could come for me in comments about, this is what the illustration and they're showing the best 10, the worst 10, the least 10 or whatever. But here's the deal. There is not enough money. There's not enough juice in the fruit for you to get paid commission, for the insurance company to make their money, and for them to give them the same amount of returns. And so if you set your sales process up like this to where you can talk about the 3 types of investments, ask them how they want invested, it's very, very simple. So based on everything we talked about, my recommendation would be to leave some aggressive and let's put some in the conservative and the protected accounts. Let's do, 50% of protected, 25 conservative, 25 aggressive. The first thing that we're going to do is open up your aggressive account. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get your protected account established. They may already have other retirement accounts established where you can do the conservative and the protected. So the first thing we're going to do is get your protected account established. In the next 24 to 48 hours, you're actually going to receive an email. It's an 80-page document, DocuSign. But that is the document. Make sure you let me know that you have any questions. That'll help us establish the account so that when we want to move some money over from the other accounts that you have into the protected account, we will be able to do that, right? And then from that point in time, you need to get somebody that's securities licensed that is able to handle all of these other investments and conversations. We've got lots of agents on the program who are working towards their securities license, and they come to me. I still run joint cases. I run split cases. I will help you close the case. I will help you get the AUM, and then whatever is suitable, we write into an FIA, a fixed product, a MYGA, whatever it is they need, okay? But I promise if you do this method, every single agent that I've got to duplicate what I'm saying and then implement this method, they have found success almost immediately. In the first conversation, the first time, I have success story after success of agents saying, dude, I've been doing it the hard way. I've been using these illustrations And I got rid of the illustration and I started talking about the three types of investments, and it worked. And I'm like, of course it worked, because the prospect can understand it. You have their best interest in mind. They win and you win. Again, the key here is not to try to persuade or encourage them to protect more than they should, just because that would pay more of a commission. All right. You need to make the recommendation and talk to the prospect like it's a family member, like a brother, like a parent. And if you do that, not only will the transaction close and stay closed, you will get referrals, and you can sleep better at the end of the night knowing that you did the right thing versus did the right thing to get the best commission. This concept that I'm just talking about, the three types of investments, is just one of the strategies that we use in the client conversion playbook to help agents and advisors close more business. We have lots of resources like this, including a 7-page document that has 7 different plays in it, just like this, so that you can use it to be more successful and close more deals. These are actionable, tried and true strategies and talking tracks that actually work, that the top advisors use. And they use these with another sales process. They use them without another sales process. At the end of the day, you have to be educated in these different areas and be able to talk to the prospect. And you got to know what you're talking about too. So the 7 that we put together in something called a client conversion playbook. Around this video somewhere, you can actually join that group, get that playbook for absolutely free, as well as an hour-long video of me going way in depth about it. Just one of the concepts that I'm talking about, just the types of investments. We've got a tax one. We've got some other strategy ones in there. Every single one of them has helped the top advisors succeed more in the industry. And the whole reason we're putting this together is so we can help agents like you close more business and be more successful.